Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of Inside the Nest. I am so pleased to be joined on this episode by head coach of the Halifax Thunderbirds, Mike Accursi, and later on we'll have Stephan Leblanc, new joiner to the team, who will be joining our show in just a little bit. But first up, Mike Accursi. Mike, it's been a while since you and I have chatted. It's always great to talk lacrosse with you, and you have been one busy guy over the off season, and so is Halifax. But we have a lot to get to. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Tyson.
So, Mike, let's talk about the tough decisions that you might have to make come training camp because, like I said, team owner and general manager Kurt Steyer is really busy in the offseason, signing all the key players and then adding a couple of free agents to the team and making one extremely big move in terms of a trade. So, when it comes to forwards, defenders, you're going to be making some really tough decisions. How are you sitting with that at this point, and kind of what's on the chopping block here?
I'm trying hard not to think about it too much because I think there is going to be a lot of really difficult, situations. I mean, you had, big defenders in David Brock and Tyson Bell to an already stellar defense. It's like who goes out, and those are the decisions that are going to be really, really challenging for us. And it was no different than last year. We had a lot of strength on both sides of the ball, and come that roster decision making time, there was a lot of debate on which way we were going to go in certain situations, and we've added some really good defenders in our first round pick, and then a couple guys through trades, one through free agency. So I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to have some sleepless nights, I can guarantee that.
Now, in the off season, have you been kind of watching game tape back and identifying some certain areas that you may need to improve heading into the 2021 season?
Yeah, I mean, I never stop watching film. It's something that I really like to do and enjoy watching game film. And the players used to make fun of me about it because they would say play, and now I would know that play off by heart. They're like, "How do you remember that?" I'm like, "Well, I watched the game 4 or 5 times already." So yeah, I mean, it is going to be. I think the biggest part for us was consistency. We would start out really strong in a game, and then we would have that lull in this between the second and third quarter, and then we would pick it back up in the fourth, and we would have those amazing comebacks. It's how do we prevent that putting ourselves in that situation, right? That consistent effort for 60 minutes, I think, is something that we definitely need to improve upon, and getting out of the gates. Better. I mean, we were slow. Again, we would put ourselves in a situation, be down, 5-1 at the end of the first quarter. We'd end up coming back and winning. But, why did we put ourselves in that situation? We tried some different things during the year that seemed to help with that. And that's for, different mental preparation, different physical preparation that we had our strength and conditioning coach and Dan Noble do before the games at halftime. So we tried some different situations and those started to work. But again, I think that consistent effort for 60 minutes is something we definitely have to improve upon.
Mike, your first season with the Halifax Thunderbirds last year, now you really managed to create this cohesive unit. And when I was there at the draft just back in September, it really felt like a family, and it's incredible to see what's been built there. What was your plan of attack going into year one with the Thunderbirds?
Well, I think, the plan is to always put your best foot forward. And it's something that I try to do as a coach, and something that I try and instill in our team is, you can never settle for good enough. And I think that in professional sports, you always have to be making adjustments. You always have to try and find a different angle to get the job done. And if you don't, people will get a book on you. And once they got a book on you, anybody can shut you down. So I think it was trying to get everybody outside of their comfort zone and pushing themselves in practice, pushing their limits on what they expect out of themselves and out of their teammates. And I think when you have a group of individuals that are all trying to do better and all trying to hold each other accountable to be better, it makes it really easy to push guys. And we definitely pushed guys really hard in practice. and they hated me for it at times. And then, they always stripped me. I was Herb Brooks, another one down and back. So, but I think at the end of the day, they know that made us better. And I think when you know that that makes you better, you're going to buy in. So when you have a guy like, Cody Jamieson, arguably one of the best players in the world to ever play this game, when you got him buying in and him doing the extra sprints and him pushing guys and telling guys, let's get going, um, you can't ask for a better endorsement than that. And everybody follows suit. And when they do that and they see the results, they see teams started to gas out in the fourth quarter and we were still going like we were at the beginning of the game. And those are reasons we won in those fourth quarters, is because of the effort that we put in. So I think the biggest part that I try to instill is hard work makes the dream work. And I think that's what you have to do. We have to work hard. We can't settle for good enough. We always have to be looking for ways to improve. And the guys bought into that. And then once you start winning, well, winning is fun. And once you have that fun, everybody gets to enjoy themselves a little bit more. And then they see the fruits of their labors. And when you see that, it makes it real easy again to buy in when you got to switch. We got to flip the switch at some point.
And we briefly touched on it earlier, but there's a lot of teams in the offseason that really got kind of picked apart, and Halifax wasn't one of those teams, being very busy in the offseason, adding some key members. Let's kind of break down those acquisitions just briefly here. But Tyson Bell, coming from Calgary, he's an NLL champion. Just what does he add to this roster?
Well, I think that championship pedigree for sure. I mean, you win a championship game, and playing in championship games, I think he's played in a few in Calgary. You learn a lot from those games, and I think that experience of playing and being put in those pressure cookers is something that you can't teach. I mean, you got to be in those situations in order to learn from them. So, that championship pedigree is huge. He is a buzzsaw. He's all over the floor. It's something that I think Billy D is going to have to, sometimes you want to rein it in. Sometimes you want to let it loose, just depending on how tight you want to hold the chain. But, he does bring that intensity. Guys hate to play against him, but he's a guy that you love having on your team. So, I mean, the fans of Halifax are going to love him. I know our teammates are excited to have him on our team. So he's going to be a real good piece.
All right, let's move on to a player that doesn't quite have the championship pedigree just yet. He's been with 6 teams in the National Lacrosse League, been around for quite a bit. The Brocket ship, David Brock, coming to Halifax to play. What's your experience been like with him, and just what does he add to this roster?
David Brock was a guy that we wanted to add last year. I met with him the first day of free agency. We actually went out for dinner with Billy D and myself. We met him for dinner and talked about, what our vision was in Halifax, where we thought the team was going to go. He opted to play in Toronto. He had his reasons, and, I respected those. But I think the year before, when he was in New England, I think he should have won Defender of the Year, or at least should have been in the conversation to win Defender of the Year. He had a fantastic year statistically. He was right up there in loose balls, in goals scored for defenders. And he's a presence on the floor. So I think he had a little bit of a downturn last year in Toronto, but I think that's just the system that they play, a little bit slightly different system, and they have their guys that they like to use in certain situations. So I think he was underutilized in Toronto, and that's not a mistake that I'm going to make. So again, big presence, strong body, run for days. I'm excited to see him wear the Halifax jersey.
This one's kind of hot off the press. Clark Peterson signing a 2-year contract extension just yesterday. What does
Mhm.
he add to the team? Third in rookie scoring pass in the past season. That was obviously cut short. So he could have attained by the end of the year, but I think there's some really high hopes around this kid.
Yeah, I mean, we knew where we were in the draft to get him. We were pretty excited because we kind of figured he would fall into our lap, and he has been an elite player in every league that he's played in, and he had his ups and downs over last season, but overall towards the end of the year, he was a guy that you knew was consistently going to produce for you. He scored some huge goals for us. I think the game winner against Buffalo He was, part of the big rally against Sask. Like, the kid can score. He's got a great touch, a great IQ. He's got a phenomenal work ethic. He is one of the hardest workers. Just a great individual, and I'm really excited to see what level Clark can take his game to. I think he's obviously always been on successful teams and had successful career in junior. I've yet to see what happens in senior, but in the professional league, he's well on his way to being an all-star in this league, and I think he's going to have a long and illustrious career. And I'm excited to see how he molds and develops into one of those guys.
And I'll save I can't say the best for last here, but it's probably just the best segue into who we've got coming up on the show. And be careful here because Steph is on the line and he's listening. But Steph Leblanc being added to the organization, he's actually living in Halifax, which is so great to have a player actually in market. What does this player do for your team?
Steph, again, the guy has been there, done that. I mean, he's had a tremendous career so far. Obviously one of the top goal scorers to ever play this game. I mean, how do you not get excited about having a guy like that on his team? He makes everybody around him better too. I mean, he can score goals, he can feed. Um, he's strong. He goes hard to the net, and those are things that you have to account for. And then you add that left side in Ryan Benesh and Cody Jamieson. That's only going to help Steph and his game, and he's going to complement those guys tremendously. So I think his size, experience, goal touch. I mean, the guy's been there, done that, and again, another guy that I'm excited to see in a Halifax jersey, and I'm really glad that he decided to sign with us.
Now, really quick, Mike, what's that?
I said, hopefully that was good enough stuff.
So really quick here, you and I have spoken about this before, but just having players in market and having more bodies in Halifax, what does that mean to the organization and kind of the development of the fan base in market?
Well, again, it's community connections, and anytime that you can have a player that can get out to community events, that can participate in different things within the community, again, it's recognition, it's fan support, it's all those things. When you have that personal relationship where, oh, Steph came to our school and talked to us, and he comes up to you and says hi after the game. I think all those things are a big part of successfully building a new franchise in a market like Halifax. And, we had Kyle Jackson there last year. Adding Steph there, again, is going to be great. Takes a little bit off of Kyle. He doesn't have to go everywhere, but also, Steph's a great person, a great role model for young kids to look up to that are looking to maybe play professional lacrosse. And he's going to be great for that market. So again, the idea would be eventually we can get more players into market, have them again living there and being able to participate in all the events that are happening in Halifax.
Well, Mike, certainly excited to get you back in market there. We could talk lacrosse for hours, but we only have a few minutes here. So thanks so much for joining on Inside the Nest. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Tyson.
That's Mike Accursi, head coach of the Halifax Thunderbirds. You know that he's just chomping at the bit to get kind of back on the bench and leading this team to hopefully an NLL title in 2021. Our next guest looking for his second NLL title of his playing career, and that's Steph Leblanc. Steph, thanks so much for joining us here on Inside the Nest.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tyson.
Of course, you come to Halifax. You've been living in market with your wife and your two children. Just how excited are you to kind of suit up for your home city now?
Yeah, I'm pumped. I mean, it's again, not that I wasn't happy in New England, but to be playing close to home, and I've met quite a few of the local lacrosse guys out here and seen the passion that people have for the game, and just the reception that the team got last year kind of heightens it even more, right? I mean, you couldn't help but watch games on the bus and see the atmosphere in the rink and be a bit jealous because it was just so good. So I'm excited to get going. Obviously, things are a little bit up in the air with the pandemic, but training hard and just hoping to get on the floor as soon as possible.
Now I have to apologize to you because I said on the first episode of Inside the Nest that you hadn't yet hit 800 points in the NLL, but you did that with the New England Black Wolves. So that's on me. I was looking at the wrong site, I do believe. But Steph, when it comes, we've heard it from your head coach, but when it comes to playing, just what do you add to this roster?
Uh, you know what? I think it's one of those things where experience and having played with a lot of the guys on the team already at this point, you kind of you can feed off each other, and um, it's exciting because lacrosse is one of those games where you can't really, unless you're Crawford or Cody, you can't really do it on your own. And I've always played better with good players around me, and um, I'm kind of surrounded by great players in Halifax, right? You look at what Benny and Cody have done, and you look at Steve Keogh and the way Peterson's maturing into this league. It's really exciting, and I think I'll be able to move some bodies and create some space for some guys on the left side, but I think I'll be able to find some guys on the right side as well using some vision. So um, it's exciting, and I think it's tough to see, tough to know before you get on the floor where you're going to fit in. But I think this offense is going to have pretty good pedigree, and I think we're going to be able to do pretty special things on the floor.
Steph, just watching those highlights back, two things kind of jump out to me. One is this killer shot from up top and the outside, but you also like to get the ball down low, and you've got this almost sixth sense to know where you are on the crease, and you're able to kind of straddle it. So what's the science behind that?
I don't know. I've probably had more crease calls in my career than any other player, but no, it's you know what it's. Um, I've had the opportunity to play with a lot of great players, and Colin and Josh Sanderson, Blaine Manning, Garrett Billings. When you play with guys like that, it becomes easy, right? Um, you get to talk with them, you get to watch film with them. I think either Mike or you kind of mentioned that lacrosse IQ, right? The more IQ you have, the better sense you have on the floor, the more the game slows down. So I think we got a lot of that on Halifax this year.
No, I briefly touched on this with Mike, and it was my last question. But you're a player who's in market. How important is that for National Lacrosse League players to actually kind of be there, be present, and to be building a sport, but also in a market like Halifax where lacrosse is new and fresh?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, being around the league for a long time, you see that even if teams have come into markets and left, the lasting impression has been huge, and a big part of that is the grassroots that get laid down by professional teams like the Thunderbirds. So um, I've been looking to get involved in lacrosse as much as possible in this community for the last few years, but it's very difficult because you're traveling so much, um, going to New England or playing in the division with New York and Philly and Atlanta, right? So I think what playing on this team not only provides is just more availability, and so I'm really excited about that. I've kind of reached out to. I live out in St. Margaret's Bay, so I'm gonna hopefully this summer spend a lot of time at the floor working with people in St. Margaret's Bay, but I mean, really across the whole lacrosse community in Nova Scotia. So I think it's huge. I really do, and I think the more we expose people to the game, uh, the bigger it's going to grow because there's no one that's come to an NLL game and not left satisfied with the product they saw. And there you go,
Now, Steph,
pictures of
we,
it all.
we've got yeah, all the crowd shots. We've got an anticipated start date of April 9th here. What do the next couple of months look like for you as you prepare for the 2021 season?
I think things just kind of ramp up a little bit. It's been an interesting kind of year, right? With COVID, you kind of started the first 3, 4 months unable to kind of leave your house, so those home workouts became kind of the norm, and um, you know, I'm, there's been some ebbs and flows in that as well, right? So finding the motivation can sometimes be a little bit difficult when you're cooped up in your basement. Um, Positive thing is I've joined up with a great group in Onside Fitness in Bears Lake, so local kind of CrossFit box there. So they have a really good support system, a good community that I've been able to join. So I've been there for about 3 months now. I plan to continue going there now that the latest kind of pandemic closures have opened up. It's a really big relief, right? When you work from home and you're at home all the time, that gym becomes your sanctuary. And I think anybody that kind of knows me knows that I do enjoy that aspect of the game, and being around the grind of the game is part of the fun, right? So ramping up over the next kind of, call it, 3 months. A lot of the same. Feeling really good right now. Again, the break for someone that's played in the league for 10, 11 years, it does the body a little bit of good, right? The joints feel good. Um, Still getting out. When before the closures, we were playing lacrosse kind of every Sunday for a few hours, so uh, the stick has been in my hand quite a bit. I'm excited. I think it'll be a good training camp. Hopefully we get at least a good month in where we're banging and crashing, and getting the calluses worked in a little bit more than they are right now. But I think that happens if we can get started in early April. It's going to be a good show.
Well, anticipation is certainly high, and we definitely can't wait to see you suit up in a Halifax Thunderbirds uniform. Stephan Leblanc, thanks so much for joining us here on Inside the Nest.
No, thanks for having me.
That's Stephan Leblanc, the newly acquired of the Halifax Thunderbirds. Can't thank him enough. And Mike Accursi, of course, the head coach of the team, for joining on this episode. And thank you for tuning in. For everyone, we just want to say a big thanks for spending your Tuesday night with us here. One more reminder, I guess I haven't done it yet on this episode, but you can head to halifaxthunderbirds.com/win for your chance to win a Halifax Thunderbirds prize pack. That is still active. That's our kind of thank you to you for tuning in. And season tickets also still available. Head to halifaxthunderbirds.com for more information. We are counting the days to the start of the 2021 season. Everyone is excited, and it's going to be fantastic. Take my word for it. Thanks for joining here on Inside the Nest. We'll see you in 2 weeks, where Teddy Jenner, voice of the National Lacrosse League, and Ryan Benesh will be joining. These two know each other from their time in Colorado spent together, so it'll be one great episode. Ryan Benesh, been around the National Lacrosse League, as has Teddy Jenner, so there's going to be lots of great insight that is offered up there. That goes on January 12th, so be sure to tune in. Same time, 8 p.m. Atlantic, 7 p.m. Eastern. We will see you then. Take care.